Hi everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. We had lots of racing on Racing TV over the last 7 days, so choosing 6 races was pretty difficult. There's a lot of decent performances out there that are worth highlighting, but I've picked out 6 of interest, and of course the feature of which is the Irish Oaks at the Curragh. We'll start at Epsom on Thursday evening. Here are the winners. Good day for favourite backers, 4 of them going in, and one horse I want to concentrate on is Attack, who won the 5.55 contest, odds-on favourite for Team Gosden. Let's have a look at the times for this race, courtesy of the Race IQ Time Index. And Attack put up a good performance in what was the opening contest, a time index score of 8.59. It wasn't the best score on the night. That achieved later on the card a 9.88. And these scores on a scale of 0 to 10 based on the track, the going and the distance and the class of the race. And we were generally at Epsom dealing with good ground, maybe just a little bit quicker than that. Keep an eye out for the bullet points scrolling on the bottom of your screen as I look at all of these races today with a win time and describing that time against the Race IQ par. They'll be scrolling along your screen during the show. There is Attack in stall 6, who wins this in really good style, a little bit slowly into stride. He just missed it a little bit, and therefore we can look at how quickly he got to 0 to 20 miles an hour. He wasn't quick at all, 3.41 seconds, 7th fastest in the race to get up to 20 miles an hour. There he is, number 2, in the middle of your shot. And that put him on the back foot a little bit in this contest, in a race that was not particularly strongly run. Surprising, really, because to your eye, it looks like they're going quite hard, and it looks as if that Attack's in a really good position mid to rear of the field. But I think he was at a positional disadvantage the way the race was run, and he was forced to come home quickly to land the spoils here. His finishing speed percentage was 106.23, and he had to run over 6% quicker in the final couple of furlongs to run down Spellmaster, who's got a much better position. He sat in 2nd place, just on the inside, just coming now, angling between horses in the middle of those front 3. Now Attack begins to get a move on, hanging down the camber, still a bit green, but his 5th furlong was 10.56, shooting him into contention. And then his 6th furlong, he backs it up with a 10.68. 2 sub-11 second furlongs that no other horse in the race was able to do. And why is this impressive? Well, the 2nd and the 3rd both recorded finishing speed percentages over 100. They weren't stopping. They both were running on strongly through the final couple of furlongs, but Attack has run them down comfortably from a very poor position, and he needs marking up for that. He has run a couple of times prior to this. Things haven't necessarily panned out for him, but he's off the mark now. And I think for all the world, he'll stay a mile. He'll go another furlong, and a more conventional track will suit him better. Look at him hanging down the camber, Oisin Murphy having to get his whip into his left hand to straighten him out. And those 2 furlongs that he fired, though, to get into contention and to ultimately go past his closest rivals were really impressive. Overall, the win time of 1:23.52 was 1.83 under the Race IQ par, and his time index score, which we looked at earlier, of 8.59, beating the average for the meeting of 7.92. So overall, it's a pretty good time performance from him, but delving into that overall time to find those individual sectionals is where you'll find this horse's class, and I think there's a fair bit more to come from Attack in the future. 2 sub-11s gliding into success. I think he's an interesting horse to keep an eye on. So let's sum up what we saw at Epsom on Thursday night in the opening contest by looking at this race summary. You can see the 0 to 20 mile an hour figures, 3.41 seconds. So he was really pretty slow into stride, but he reached a top speed of 43.23 miles an hour. No other horse got over 42 miles an hour. And there's that quickest furlong that he did, the 5th furlong. And you know that's good because you can compare it with all of the others, and he's beaten them 106.23%, his finishing speed percentage. So through that 5th furlong, they were all quickening. Some of them had a better position than him, but that 10.56, followed by another sub-11 of 10.68, got him into the picture, and he won going away. He's pretty useful already. OK, we're going to be dotting around to different tracks in the verdict this week, and we'll go to Newmarket now on Friday night and have a look at the performance of Arabian Light. And he was the long odds-on favourite to win the 6.25, and he did so in pretty good style. What did he achieve as far as the Race IQ time index was concerned? We'll have a look. He is race number 3. And it was a 4.67 score with the average of 4.44. So it was just an OK time, and that's courtesy of what was quite a steady gallop. The other thing I think I would say about this meeting is that the ground was perhaps a little bit easier than the advertised good ground. If you look at the Race IQ par times, they indicate that it may just have been a little easier than advertised. Nonetheless, let's have a look at him and see what he achieved. You remember that he was second to Ombudsman at Newmarket on his first start. Stall 10 for him. The runner-up, King's Coronation, from 7, Shimmering Spin from 2. And the reason that time index score is not particularly flash is because of this very steady pedestrian early gallop. They crawled along in the early part of this mile novice, and he sat nice and prominent. Now, the reason he was long odds on, not just because he's shaped with a deal of promise on his debut behind Ombudsman, but Ombudsman had gone on to win earlier in the week, again bolted up at Leicester, giving the form a pretty good look. He's in a good position, given that this race was quite steadily run. He came home very strongly late on. He quickened up in good style. If you look at the finishing speed percentage, that gives you an idea of the pace of the race. Horses saving energy, then be able to finish strongly, and that's what he did, and he was on the front end doing so. 107.05, so he's 7.05% quicker in the last couple of furlongs than the rest of the race. That's a function of two things. One, that he can quicken, and then he's got speed to flash home through the last 2 furlongs, and 2, saving precious petrol in the early part of the race, early part of what is a steadily run contest. Here he is, quickening up now. And his 7th furlong, 11.08 to take him clear of the field, and it's a pretty ready success under William Buick. He doesn't necessarily move all that well, I don't think, but he's got an engine, and he quickened up really well here, and it's a pretty cosy success. He's certainly learnt from his debut, and Ombudsman, who beat him, is a very useful horse. And I think this fella's going to become very useful as well. The overall time, 140.96. So he's above par here. He's 1.07 seconds above par. And this is the Race IQ par, which is set according to the class of the race, the distance and the ground that they were encountering. They're scrolling along the bottom of your screen, giving you a time index of 4.67. Average is 4.44, so just a little bit better than the average, but overall not a great time, and that's because of the steady early gallop. But the sharp turn of foot that he showed identifies him to be a useful horse. They are toiling behind him, and William Buick has not gone through the gears in the closing stages. There'll be a lot more to come from this horse. He just sidewinds the way he moves in front. I just wonder whether always a little bit of ease in the ground might be necessary for him, but nonetheless, he's a very useful individual by Kingman out of a Street Cry mare. So he's got a really nice pedigree, and that does say, that pedigree, that good ground will suit him. But just the way he moves, I think probably no quicker than that is what he requires going forward. And he's a very nice 2-year-old for the Charlie Appleby team. There he is coming back in, having won at Newmarket. Let's just have a look at that turn of foot that he was able to show. And we've got a visualization graph here. So when the lines go down, he's getting quicker. It goes up, he's getting slower. And you can see that he started off fairly evenly for that first furlong. Then he gets quicker and quicker. And then you can see that from that 5 furlong point, just work your way up from 5F to where the dot is, a sharp decline. That's him quickening. Then a decline again, quickening once again. And then sort of eased down, just hands and heels, slowing down through the final furlong when he had the race in safekeeping. That slowing down is that sharp line at the end. But that sharp drop from 5 furlongs to 7, showing you that he's a horse with a decent turn of foot. OK, let's move from Newmarket. Let's go north and let's go to Hamilton on Friday night. One of their big nights featuring the Glasgow Stakes, which is what we'll look at, and the success of Kalpana, the 6-5 on favourite. In the 7-10, Jordan Electric's winning yet again at his favourite track. He absolutely loves this place and he always goes well here. It was a really good card, it was a valuable one, and we're going to look at Kalpana's success in what was the feature event on the card. Let's have a look at the Race IQ time index and see what Kalpana actually achieved. Look at all those times. They're all pretty good on the day. Average 8.28, but they were essentially good times throughout the card. Race 4 for Kalpana, a mile and 3 furlongs. 6.92 is what Kalpana achieved on the day. But they were times that suggested the ground was certainly good, maybe a little bit quicker. Here's Kalpana then. Stall 2 for the winner. And the second horse coming from just on the wide outside there, which was God's Window. Caviar Heights in the yellow colours was back in 3rd place. Why was that time index score not perhaps as good as some of the others? Well, the reason is that they went steady, and you can see visually how steady they are going at this stage of the race. Let me remind you, the score was 6.92. The average was 8.28. So you'd have expected perhaps something better in the feature, but you didn't get that. Now, the thing about Kalpana is that when she featured on the verdict, when she bolted up in a handicap at Newmarket on the Rowley Mile, she was just relentless with the way she galloped out. She could churn out even 12-second furlongs and galloped her rivals into submission, winning by a very wide margin that day. She's run well in defeat since, but she's shown here that she's got another string to her bow, and that string is that she can quicken. And she really has quickened in great style in this race, something we didn't know she could do from her previous runs. She'd look like a horse who's just a very strong galloper, would always want a decent gallop, would just want to carve out even 12-second furlongs. That's not the case though. She can quicken, and she seems to have developed this from somewhere, and the turn of foot that she showed here was really, really impressive. Now they're beginning to wind it up off what was a steady gallop. They always go steady around the loop. They're downhill now, they're picking up. She sat in second, and very shortly through the 8th furlong, she'll go 11.14, a very quick furlong for her. She's a stout stayer. She wants a really strong gallop to be at her best, really, but she's overcome this steady gallop with a turn of foot. There's the 11.03 in the 9th furlong, which follows 11.14. Those are quick sectionals for a horse who is essentially a stayer. Really quick fractions from her, and everything else is in trouble at this stage. She's just going too fast for them through this part of the contest, and she's way too good in my opinion. Her finishing speed percentage 110.81, so 10.81% quicker in the last 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. That's because it turned into a dash, but she had the speed to go over 10% quicker in those last 3 furlongs, and PJ McDonald can just sit up on her close zone. It's a very easy 4.5 length success from God's Window. She reached the top speed in the race, 41.17 miles an hour. That's quick, and that's when she did the 11.03 through the 9th furlong, and that's where she really shot clear of the field and sealed the deal. You can see on the bullet points at the bottom of your screen, we're talking about the Race IQ par time there. The win time 1:26:39.92 under par. So although they went steady in the early part of the race, they've quickened up quite a long way out, and that's meant that the time has dipped under par ultimately, and therefore it's a reasonably good time performance. She's capable of a much better time performance if she'd got a better gallop, but we've learned something off this steady gallop. Sometimes steady gallops can produce performances to give us some information about what a horse can achieve, and now we know that not only can she churn out relentless 12-second furlongs, she's got a smart turn of foot for a stayer, and she really is developing quickly. Kalpana, let's have a look at exactly what she did, sum it all up for you. You can see the 0 to 20 miles an hour. She wasn't the quickest away. See, the Thunder was, but it didn't do him any good, did it? He was absolutely thrashed. She was second fastest, 2.9 seconds. And look, there's the quick furlong. It's the 9th furlong where they're all quickening up. She wasn't the fastest in the race. Some of them 10.98 from Rogue Cellier, 11.01, 11.03, 11.03 for Kalpana. But the difference was she could sustain that speed. They couldn't. They could do one quick furlong, but she could do 2, and that's the reason that she came home quicker than everything else to win 4.5 lengths. And you can see from those finishing speed percentages, they're all sprinting through the final 3 furlongs. Kalpana didn't get the race run to suit, but she still did the job. Okay, we'll go south from Hamilton now to the northwest and to Haydock Park, and to have a look at a nice performance there on Friday afternoon. Here are the winners for you, 3 favourites going in, one of which we'll have a look at. In the 4:25, American Arrow was winning on debut for the Ed Walker team. What did American Arrow achieve in terms of time? Well, it's the 5th race. It'll be the 5th graph there that you're looking at. And it was 6.84. It was the best Race IQ time index performance of the day at Haydock over 7 furlongs. The average for the meeting, 5.79. And we had 2 times over that. So it was a good ground, maybe a little bit quicker than that. And a nice performance from this horse, American Arrow. Safi Osborne on board for Ed Walker. Stall 4 for the winner, Cafu Zafine from 6. Cuccinelli from stall number 1 was back in 3rd place. And this race, it was run at a reasonable gallop, really. The finishing speed percentage for the winners, 102.01. Jumping from stall 4, was able to just sit in and get a lead. Now, I'm not sure this is a particularly strong maiden, but I really like the way the winner went about it, whilst looking very green and rough around the edges, I thought, but quickened up in pretty good style in the closing stages. Jumped well from the stalls, quickest at 2.62 seconds, quickest at 20 miles an hour, therefore able to adopt a nice position. Just getting a little bit hampered against the rail. Safi Osborne's not going to try and take a gap. She's going to switch out and get a clear shout at the leaders, who are going pretty evenly out in front. But it's when American Arrow quickens up that the race is soon put to bed. The 5th furlong, 10.96, which represents 41.19 miles per hour in this 7 furlong contest. Now, that's just a shade quicker than Kalpana did when she was at her fastest over much further, of course, at Hamilton. Different track, different ground, different trip. But nonetheless, tells you that this filly's pretty quick for a youngster. And that surge that she put into the race has taken her clear very readily and very quickly. And perhaps there's a bit more in the tank. Ears flicking backwards and forwards late on. And it was a 4-length winning margin in the end, but I think there was a bit more to come from this horse, who's got a nice turn of foot. We'll have a look at the overall win time of 1:26.39, so it's 0.92 under the Race IQ par, so it's a pretty good time for a horse running in this class of race over this distance on the advertised going, and a 6.84 time index score, so well above the meeting average. So although she wasn't pressed through the final furlong and a half or so, she's still able to record the best time of the day, and she's done so whilst just being pushed out hands and heels in the closing stages. So overall, you've got to be pretty impressed with this. I think decent ground's always going to suit. There's not much knee curl in that action, but she runs on really well in the closing stages. And Cafu Zafine a long way back in 2nd, Cuccinelli back in 3rd place. So it wasn't, I don't think it's a race where you want to look at the 2nd and 3rd and go, well, I'll tell you what, we'll look to back them next time. I wouldn't certainly be doing so. But I'd like to keep a close eye on the winner, because I think she's pretty useful. And that turn of foot that she showed, going under 11 seconds, really put this race to bed very quickly indeed. And she's potentially pretty smart. Let's sum it all up then. We can have a look at this Race IQ summary for this. There's the 0 to 20 mile an hour speeds, 2.62 seconds. Cafu Zafine, 2.64. And there's that top speed that the winner reached, 41.19 miles an hour. That's through the 5th furlong. And there, she was the only horse to go under 11 seconds through that 5th furlong. That's when they were all quickening. They were all picking up. But she was quickest at 10.96 seconds, and that translated to 102.01. Her finishing speed percentage, Cafu Zafine, just under 100, pretty even, and most of them really rated evenly through the race, but couldn't match the speed of American Arrow at Haydock on Friday. Big race of the weekend time now, the Irish Oaks on Saturday afternoon at the Curragh. It's a very interesting contest to analyse. Here are all the winners from the day. The Lion in Winter is favourite for the Derby now, having won the opening contest, the 130 in impressive style. He's 11-2 on the day for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. Believing a really nice winner in the sprint for George Bowie. And Tower of London, an amazing success from that horse, coming from a long way back and sprinting home to catch the long-time leader and win going away under Ryan Moore. But it was You Got To Me who won the big one, the 340, the Irish Oaks. We'll have a look at the times for the day. Pretty good, really. Average 7.66, but You Got To Me's produced a pretty good time. The fifth race there, 8.87. Being her time index score. A couple were a little bit better than that. The 5 furlong contest and the 6 furlong contest after that. But overall, we were dealing with pretty good ground. Good to firm, I'd say it was, looking at those race IQ scores. We'll take it from the start. Over 1.5 miles. Rubies are red going to the front, making the pace for Content, presumably. Ryan Moore's Content, who is second. There is Content, tucked in behind the winner. You Got To Me, and Purple Lily a bit further forward, finished back in third place. Make a note of Elizabeth Jane. She's third last at the moment, white sleeves, red cap. Third last, she finishes fourth, and that's a really good run. I don't think the way the race was run, for example, Elizabeth Jane or Content were in bad spots. I think it was quite strongly run in the early part of the contest. That's certainly what the data says, and you needed to come from just off the pace. Those that raced prominently dropped away, and you needed to come from off it. Look how well strung out they are at this part of the contest, and it's tactically an interesting race. Ryan Moore down on the inside on Content. He's tracking You Got To Me, and it's a change of tactics for You Got To Me. I think that's really important. She's a filly who, when she won the Lingfield Oaks trial, she bowled along in front. She went keenly at Epsom and at Ascot as well, but here, held up in a first-time tongue tie. That's made a difference. She's settled mid-division. A very interesting change of tactics, which has worked the oracle for the Rafe Beckett team. Now, she comes home with an FSP of 108.32%, so she's 8.32% quicker in the last 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. That's courtesy of her being able to save energy mid-division. You didn't want to be close to what was quite a strong pace early on. You wanted to sit back and save energy for a late surge. Now, she is in about 8th or 9th at this stage on the rail with the blue sleeves, white cap. Ryan Moore's directly behind on Content, and this is where it gets a bit messy. They steady, according to the sectionals, they steady the pace and they go slow round the bend, and now there's trouble there. Ryan's got trouble there. He couldn't maintain a smooth passage up the rail and look for a gap. He got buffeted, she banged into the rail, and she became unbalanced. Now You Got To Me has got a gap and quickens up and goes through it, firing an 11.45 second, 11th furlong to take her to the front. Content has to wait and wait, now gets out, and he's now going to surge at You Got To Me, but it's too late. You Got To Me has got first run. Content's got a bit of a troubled passage through, hampered on the bend, and can't get there. I had a look at the race IQ final 2 furlong times here, and 34.82 against 35.12. 34.82, 35.12. So Content quicker in the latter part of the race. Then You Got To Me, and was getting there all the way in the closing stages, but couldn't bridge the gap. Both of them finished with a finishing speed percentage exactly the same, 108.32. Both of them exactly the same, but Content has had to do it from a bit further back, and I think she can be rated as a little bit unlucky. There's Hector Crouch. What a day for him. He found a perfect trip on this filly. She's deserved a big win like this because she's run really well since winning the Lingfield Oaks trial. She performed really well at Epsom and at Ascot, and this was a deserved success. And Hector needs credit because he didn't panic in a race that became messy on the bend when they all bunched up and horses were getting trouble, particularly Content. And he found a way through. He found a passage. His filly quickened up nicely for him, and he has landed this Irish classic. Well done to him. And indeed, a word for Rafe Beckett, changing the tactics, deciding to hold her up and deciding to put a first-time tongue tie on as well. And that really did help her settle and helped her finish her race off. We're 8% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. So let's sum up the Irish Oaks. It was a bit messy, fast early, steadied on the bend, bunched up, Content got trouble, but the winner is You Got To Me. It's a mass of figures for you there, but you can see that the fastest furlong was put up through that 11th furlong, as we highlighted, by You Got To Me. And that was enough to just steal length, 3/4 of a length on Content, who in the end came home faster, but couldn't run the winner down. Curragh on Sunday, several good performances on the card. A very nice winner for the Carl Burke team with Poet Master. His horses are in tremendous form. He's had a very good season as well. There'll be more to come too. Here are the winners. Poet Master won the 3:15 contest. And the race I want to look at is Babouche. Red Letter, I should add, was very impressive in winning the opening contest for Colin Keane and Ger Lyons, but they doubled up with Babouche. And Babouche got a time index score of 7.88 in race number 2. The average was 8.46, so some really good times on this card on quick ground at the Curragh. Officially described as being good, maybe just a slightly quicker than that. So let's have a look at Babouche. She'd won on debut, and she comes from stall 5, Camille Pissarro from 1, California Dreamer from 4. The pace was set, and it was a furious pace, by Treasure Isle, who came from stall number 11. There's a couple of ways of looking at this race. I think Treasure Isle was out there to set a strong gallop for the dropped-out Camille Pissarro, who'd been a bit disappointing at Royal Ascot. Ryan Moore drops him out, and he sits a second last at this stage over on the far side. Babouche, however, shows early speed and comes towards the stand side with the pink cap. Her 4th furlong was the quickest in the race for her of 11.03 seconds, and it was good enough for her to go clear and win. But Camille Pissarro, set a task by Ryan Moore, fires much better sectionals than Babouche was able to do so. I think Babouche was well placed, but she was in the heat of the battle longer than Camille Pissarro. So it's an interesting race to analyse. Camille did 2 sub-11 second furlongs, 10.92 and 10.7 over on the far side, doing them now to get into contention. Babouche already in the heat of the battle, and now Camille Pissarro surges on the far side with those 2 sub-11s, and Babouche finds a bit more late on. Finishing speed percentage 99.97. Well, that is indicative of a strongly run race, and Babouche attended the pace there, so she needs marking up for being part of the pace early on and then sticking to her guns and finding more to beat the colt in the closing stages. But likewise, he needs marking up for sprinting from the back of the field with a 10.92 and a 10.7 to get him into contention. Problem is, he just did his running a little bit to get there, and then he's just flattened out a little bit in the closing stages. His last 2 furlongs were a little bit quicker than Babouche, and he needs marking up. And rather bizarrely, you've got to mark up the winner as well, because she was right in the teeth of the gale, so to speak, the heat of the battle throughout, while he was saving petrol out the back. We'll sum that up for you now. There you go, 10.95 for Babouche through the 2nd furlong. Look at that, 2nd furlong being the quickest furlong for most horses. That's indicative of the very strong gallop, producing finishing speed percentages that were even, really, 99.97 and 100.74. Top speed in the race, Babouche, 41.23 miles an hour. She's very useful. Mark up the first 2 there in the Group 3 Anglesey Stakes at the Curragh. That is it for the verdict this week. I hope you enjoyed looking back at some of the races from last week. Do have a look at my verdict extra column on the website coming up on Wednesday. For now, it's bye-bye.